This video is sponsored by Aniba.com, a fairly new online marketplace where you can get game keys and gift cards for PC, Xbox, PSN, Nintendo and much more. Check out the fantastic weekly deals with up to 70% off. Use the code Ikari during the registration to get another 3% off of every purchase, and have a fun time gaming. So, in my previous Skyrim modding video I have shown you an example of what the game can look like with some of the best graphical and visual mods available right now. However, to make Skyrim a true next-gen game, we also have to upgrade and expand the gameplay and overall immersion factor. And this is what we are going to do now. First of all, the most important question: Skyrim Special Edition or Anniversary Edition, which one should it be? Since the Anniversary Edition dropped and forced people to upgrade their game, it rendered many modded builds unplayable. Most of the modders updated their mods and give you the choice between SE and AE, but if you still want to just go back to SE to not start to build your game from scratch, you can easily do that with this: the Unofficial Skyrim Special Edition Downgrade Patcher. If the evil Bethesda update broke your game and you want to just roll back to a pre-anniversary state, you can literally do this with a press of a button. Yes, literally just push the button and it will do the rest. Although a little heads up, it does not work with Windows 7. This is also why I have an error message here. I just created an empty folder to show you how the program works. My actual game is on another drive. But okay, now it's time to begin with the actual modding. First of all, stability and performance, very important topic. First of all, the SSE Engine Fixes. This one is a real must. It's an SKSE plugin that fixes and improves the game's engine. And apparently not just that, because it's unbelievable just how much this increased my performance and FPS. I was honestly quite surprised. Next is Scrambled Bugs. This is a collection of various bug fixes, graphical as well as balancing some stats and calculations that happen in-game, different combat behaviors that can be applied incorrect and so on. A lot of misc fixes. Then there is the powerofthree tweaks, another collection of various engine-related bug fixes and tweaks. This one also features a lot of optional improvements you can choose to activate, like for example distorted voices coming from NPCs with full helmets and so on. So just check the description and see what you want in your game and what not. Then you will also want to get Lightened Skyrim. This mod deletes a lot of obsolete objects in the world space, meaning objects covered by other objects, hidden in the terrain and so on. So in other words, pointless. Simple idea, but effective and will improve FPS. And there is also eFPS, Exterior FPS Boost. This one is a bit more complicated. This one is supposed to give you FPS with something called occlusion culling. Basically, it determines which objects are rendered and which are not, depending on the line of sight. Most modern games usually have this feature, but apparently it's really hard to implement because you have to include it in objects manually. And this mod here claims to be the first one to actually do this, and promises a very nice FPS boost. And if you are using anything SMP physics related, don't forget to upgrade to faster HDT-SMP. This is an upgraded SMP physics version which is, well, faster, meaning it's less performance heavy and will also save you a couple of FPS. Then you will be able to afford such a ridiculous realistic emo haircut as my character here. Okay, performance secured. As for actual gameplay improvements, let's concentrate on combat, starting with a true directional movement. This mod allows you to move around in a really 360-degree way, just like in many modern action RPGs. There were mods that imitated or emulated this kind of movement in the past, but this one actually implements the real thing and comes with many nice features. Personally, I do not like this kind of movement and prefer the vanilla one. I think it's just completely unrealistic turning your back to the enemy in the middle of combat. Fortunately, you can enable it separately for weapons drawn and not drawn state. That way you can still use the classic movement theme in combat and also properly use directional power attacks, for example. Another very cool feature this mod has is the lock-on mode with a custom animated reticle. Very nice, pretty much like it is in From Software games, for example. There are also some custom options for it you can activate, even featuring homing projectiles while locked on. Which sounds kinda OP actually, would make dragon fights way easier. Another mod that is very important to overhaul the movement system is the movement behavior overhaul. This mod adds realistic transitions if you switch from moving from one direction to another, like running left and then instantly right, or switching between forward and backward movement, or when you sprint and then come to a stop abruptly. There will also be a proper animation to realistically display the momentum behind the movement. Also a special animation for the sneak slide ability. And also the same treatment for the jump behavior overhaul. This mod uses different jump animations for different conditions. A different jump for heavy armor, a different one for jumping in different directions, a different landing animation depending on the height you fall from or based on perks. So basically to make jumping and falling have a lot more variety, and makes it a bit more realistic that way, you could say. But personally I didn't like the animations of this mod and ended up going for a bit simpler option, which is subtle jump. It does not have quite as many features, but it has the important ones. Different directional jumping and also a very nice sprint jump roll. I think that's quite enough. Then there is a mod called Combat Gameplay Overhaul, a true flagship in terms of combat mods. It adds tons of features, like procedural leaning for example, dodge rolls, and completely unlocks attacks while moving. You can even attack during a jump for example. Well, there are many more features. I actually fully reviewed this mod back in episode 105, so check it out for more info. There is, however, also the mod Attack Behavior Revamp, and this one has a completely different approach. It introduces different combo attacks and attack combinations, charged attacks featuring different animations and whatnot. It's way more complicated than Combat Gameplay Overhaul. Theoretically, those two mods are absolutely compatible and can be used alongside each other, but personally I prefer to use just Combat Gameplay Overhaul, because it gives you absolute freedom to move and attack the way you want. Even things like directional power attacks can be used on the move, and all that super fluid and without any weird button combinations. But that's just my opinion. To spice up the combat experience further, you should definitely get the mod Ultimate Combat. This is a complete overhaul with lots of mechanics. Not to just improve the combat itself, but also to add some nice visual effects and enhance enemy behavior. It also adds a lot of new attack types with custom animations to enemies. Also some custom magic attacks. It allows enemies to go into rage mode, cooperate with other enemies to use joint attacks, and so on. It truly turns certain enemy encounters into boss fights. I also recommend using this one beside Wildcat. Some of the features of those two mods, like locational damage or timed block for example, are the same, but can be disabled in the MCM menu, so just go ahead and choose the ones you prefer. And another recommendation is HitStop, or its Anniversary Edition counterpart Stop on Slash. This is what makes the game stop for a split second and slightly shakes the screen whenever you hit something. It's really a great hit feedback and gives you the feeling of actually trading blows with your enemies and not just swinging through the air. But if you are more into bows, you should probably get the Archery gameplay overhaul. Just as the name suggests, this is a complete rework of how Archery works in this game, featuring new animations, new mechanics like enchanted arrows with elemental damage, bleeding and knockback, some camera tweaks and so on. This is definitely the most complex and fleshed out Archery mod out there. Also, another small but absolute must-have addition is the animated potion drinking mod. Yes, also like in many modern games, you will actually see your character and also the enemies drink the potions. And it also slows you down while you drink and can be interrupted on hit. The only problem with this is it's not available for the Anniversary Edition. Of course, if you want to have all the food consumption animated, you can also get the animated Eating Redux mod. It covers pretty much all the foods, the animations work for player and NPCs of course, and it also is compatible with mods like I Need. Or you could also go for the somewhat newer option and get the food mod Eating Animations and Sounds. Actually already reviewed this one in episode 111. Both mods do more or less the same, although I think Eating Animations and Sounds has actually slightly better animations, so it's a matter of choice really. Next, it's time to talk about animations in general, because fluid and realistic looking animations are one of the most important aspects of a good game. First of all, if you don't have it yet, get the Dynamic Animation Replacer mod. This is a framework mod and a hard requirement for many of the following mods. Speaking of animations, in the end it's a matter of taste which ones you will get. But here are some of the highest quality mods. A lot of good animations can be found in the Smooth Animation series, like for example the Smooth Magic Casting mod. Really nice animations for magic. This modder released a lot of high quality animation mods, but this is not all. Besides the typical animation replacers, there are also some randomizer mods. Like for example the Smooth Random Jump animation. The name already explains what it does. This is for example a mod where you need the Dynamic Animation Replacer for the randomizer function to work. But there are also some mods which add whole new gameplay mechanics in addition to animations. Bow Rapid Combo is one of those. It features some very flashy bow action. Okay, this might be a bit too JRPG for some people. So, back to the classic animation replacers. The mod series by Verolevi features some very high quality animations, and this is also what I use for the most part in my game. You can find replacers for pretty much any weapon and also for movement animations too. As already mentioned, there is some choice here, like between the Vanguard and the Leviathan animations. Just get what you think fits the most to your character and to your game. Okay, all the mentioned mods so far deal only with the third-person animations. To upgrade the first-person experience also, we need, for example, the first-person combat animations overhaul. This mod does what it sounds like, complete set of animations for all the weapons, including also some exotic ones like katanas or claws, about which we will talk a bit later during the recommended weapon mods section. So this mod here is really good for showing pointy objects into your enemy's face in first person, looks like it's really fun. But for magical first person action we need to take a look at animation mods by Spoiler. I reviewed some of them in the past and they are really great, especially the random first person magic animation, also using DAR. A really cool randomizer for magic casting in first person. The non-first person animation mods of this modder are also worth checking out. And finally, a couple of animation mods to enhance the NPC and player characters' everyday life. Immersive interactions, animated actions, a very interesting mod. It lets the player character perform different actions by interacting with the world. Most of them will occur naturally, things like pickpocketing or lockpicking animations, animated greetings of NPCs as you initiate a conversation, or animated ingredient harvesting. But also things like actually interacting with the puzzles, the levers and the buttons in dungeons. It's actually pretty awesome. I remember reviewing a similar mod in the past, but nothing on this scale. This one really just radiates immersion, like Chernobyl residents who were not in the mood to change their place of residence. Another mod that goes into this direction is Conditional Expressions Subtle Face Animations. This one adds appropriate facial animations to the player character according to the situation or state currently in. For example, if you are low on health, your character will actually look like they are in pain and struggling. Or for example, shiver in cold weather. Of course, you are supposed to turn this function off in the MCM menu if you are a glorious Nord master race, because we sure are not afraid of no cold. You know what they say, Skyrim is a pretty cool guy, he fights dragons and doesn't afraid of anything. Then there is one mod for the NPCs only, NPC Animation Redux, another DUR mod. This one adds a bunch of idle animations NPCs will perform in appropriate situations. This includes things like scratching their heads, removing dust from clothes. Heimskar, for example, will violently swing his arms through the air as he does his weird preaching. Or NPCs checking their pockets in Riften, laughing my ass off. Yeah, sure, why not? Also, don't forget to install the Expressive Facial Animations mods for males and females. Also reviewed this in the past. The facial animations those two mods provide look way more realistic than vanilla. So yeah, this is an absolute must-have. Next, be prepared to have your minds blown, seriously. Those two mods are really something. How about a mini-map in Skyrim? Yes, it's absolutely possible. I remember reviewing someone's early attempts to create something like this. But the mod back then was very beta and had very few functions. With this here, it's a completely different story. This here is a 100% legit minimap with NPCs, dead bodies, enemies, quests, objectives and so on. If you are wondering why there are so many dots on the minimap, well, it's because it picks up the animals of all the animal mods too. I might have gone a bit overboard with this, especially with the bird mods. Also, one a bit inconvenient thing is there is no MCM menu. If you want to customize the minimap, you will have to use the ini file, but other than that, it's pretty awesome. Also, remember talking about lockpicking just a second ago? You can do this on a whole new level too, with Security Overhaul. No more picking the same lock every time you are interacting with a locked door or chest. This SKSE plugin will display a different, fitting to the chest lock depending on where you are and what you are trying to pick. Except if it's your nose. No nose picking mod yet. I know, sucks. Somebody needs to make one. But back to the topic. There are also two expansions called Security Overhaul Add-ons and Security Overhaul Regional Locks, which add even more awesome lock models for you to pick, featuring very badass animated ones, for example for the Soul Cairn chests. Mods like this really turn up the game's quality up to 11. If this is not next-gen lockpicking, then I don't know what is. The next big topic is magic. There are several big magic mods that really stand out. First of all, the Nexus Skyrim Overhaul Magic Edition. This one is not on the Nexus anymore, but you can still get it on Shaken Mods. Basically, this is a compilation of many famous magic mods put into one easy-to-use package. I reviewed this one before too. It also includes a couple of extras like the perk mod Ordinator or the enchantment mod Summer Mist, for example. So it's a really nice choice if you don't want to bother deciding between individual mods. Then there is also Arcanum. Now this one is extremely recommended. The spells and abilities this mod brings are not just visually absolutely stunning and brave, but also add a lot of depth to magical combat. Even non-magical characters can add some spells from this to their arsenal to enhance their builds. Arcanum is one of my absolute favorite magic mods for Skyrim. I fully reviewed it back in episode 82, so check it out for further info. And another one of my all-time favorite magic mods is Forgotten Magic Redone. This one is truly a bit forgotten because it's an older mod and its visuals are not that spectacular, but the thing is, this mod has the best RPG mechanics I have ever seen in any magic mod. For example, every time you cast a spell from this mod, it gathers experience points. At some point, the spell will level up, and you will be able to assign perk points to this spell, and additional effects and properties to it, and this way define your build and playstyle. This will also enable interesting spell combination possibilities, because different spell effects will be able to interact with each other and enable different strategies. This mod is really quite genius. Also, speaking of mods suited for non-magical builds, I really need to point you into the direction of Anisayayon. This modder created a lot of fantastic mods that add a lot of depth to gameplay and build creating. In all directions really, magic, abilities, combat overhauls, mods like Wildcat and Ordinator are also by this modder after all. I also reviewed many of those in the past. Like for example, Winter Sun Faith of Skyrim. It's a religion mod where praying at the shrines and dedicating yourself to different deities from the Elder Scrolls lore actually gives you new abilities, which also add a lot of depth to gameplay. There are of course also pure magic mods here too, like the newest one, Odin Skyrim Magic Overhaul. This is also a huge mod which does not only add a lot of lore-friendly spells from the Elder Scrolls universe, but also fixes and overhauls vanilla spells, scrolls and staves, and makes them more usable and significant in terms of gameplay. There are also two mods by this modder that add whole quest lines with them, Spectraverse and Dwemer. Those two provide new awesome spells, but also the storyline is fantastic and lore-friendly. So in other words, if you want to spice up your gameplay, Anisayayon Mods is really a must to check out. And now it's time for the promised weapon section. The thing is, when it comes to weapons and armors, I reviewed so many great mods that at this point it's incredibly hard to choose favorites. There is of course immersive weapons and armors. I mean, it's quite obvious, so I don't even have to talk about them. As a matter of fact, those are some of the most endorsed mods on the whole Nexus, not just Skyrim. What I however will recommend is the weapon collection by Billy Rowe. I mean, I reviewed this particular mod in the past and pretty much all of its individual parts when they first came out. This modder really always stands out because of those realistic shiny metal textures. Also, the weapons themselves definitely go more into the realistic direction rather than fantasy. One way or another, this is one of the highest quality weapon packs out there, and you will certainly want it in your game. Another big weapon pack that gets an absolute hard recommendation is the Animated Armory as well as Animated Heavy Armory. This one is not even a recommendation, it's a demand, an order. If you won't install this mod, Todd Howard will personally kick you in the nuts. Will Smith will slap you and Mike Tyson will chew your ear off. this is serious, because those mods do not just add new weapons, no, they add completely new weapon types. Claws, short swords, short staves, quarterstaffs, huge maces, whips, katanas, tridents and much more, complete with brand new animations for the first and third person view. Sure, we do have katanas in the base game, but they do not operate like katanas. They behave like normal swords, and they should behave like curved swords. Curved swords! And this mod makes it possible. This is why it is so amazing. I also reviewed parts of it here and there, like the spears and rapiers, but seriously, this is a magnificent weapon collection, and clearly the best weapon mod ever created. And this is it for my 2022 overhaul. I tried to concentrate on the most important mods to make the gameplay and look of the game come as much as possible close to a next-gen experience. Of course, there are many more categories we could talk about, like for example player homes. Tell me what you think about this video and the previous, and what kind of mods you would like to see in the future. I am really open to suggestions. And with that said, the links to all mods are as always in the description below. Don't forget to endorse the mods you like, and if you like going next gen and beyond, hit the like button and subscribe for more best new Skyrim mods. I thank you all for watching and see you around.